Two college dropouts built the world's most valuable company in a garage with white $300. Two college dropouts, one garage, $1,200. In 1976, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak started Apple Computer with almost nothing. Wozniak had hand-built a circuit board so elegant that Jobs instantly knew it could sell. He was right. But the road from that garage to the top of the world would nearly destroy both of them first. The Apple I sold for $666 a piece. It was raw, unfinished, and aimed at hobbyists. So Jobs pushed harder and funded the Apple II in 1977. It shipped with a color display, a keyboard, and a spreadsheet app called VisiCalc. Businesses bought it by the thousands. By 1980, Apple went public and minted more millionaires in a single day than any company in American history. Super Bowl ad directed by Ridley Scott that cost $500,000 to produce. It showed a lone runner smashing a screen of conformity. The world stopped. The Macintosh launched days later with a graphical interface that made every other computer feel ancient. But the victory was short-lived. And then everything changed. Apple's board forced Steve Jobs out of his own company in 1985. He was 30 years old. The man who built Apple was escorted out the door by the CEO he had personally hired, John Sculley. Jobs called it a public divorce. Apple kept releasing products but lost its edge. Revenue flatlined. Competitors copied everything. The company drifted for 11 years without its founder. While Jobs was gone, he built two companies, Next and Pixar. Next created an operating system so advanced that Apple would eventually buy it for $429 million. Pixar produced Toy Story in 1995, the first fully computer-animated feature film, and made Jobs a billionaire. So when Apple came crawling back in 1997, Jobs returned not as a desperate man, but as one of the most powerful figures in entertainment and tech. Apple in 1997 was 90 days from bankruptcy. Jobs axed 70% of its product line in his first month back. He cut deals that shocked everyone, including a $150 million investment from Microsoft. He then hired Jonathan Ive as chief designer and told him to make products that people would fall in love with. That partnership would produce the most iconic devices in history. But that was only the beginning. In 1998, the iMac arrived in 5 translucent candy colors. It sold 800,000 units in its first 139 days. The tech world laughed at the colorful plastic. Consumers bought it in millions. Then in 2001, Apple opened its first retail stores and launched the iPod. The iPod held 1,000 songs in your pocket. Music would never be the same, and neither would Apple. January 9th, 2007, Steve Jobs walked onto a San Francisco stage and announced the iPhone. He called it 3 things in one: a widescreen iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. The audience laughed when he said they were making one device, not 3. Then he swiped the screen. The room fell completely silent. Every phone maker on Earth had just been made obsolete in 90 minutes. Nokia controlled 40% of the global phone market in 2007. BlackBerry had 20%. Within 5 years, both companies were in freefall. Apple had less than 4% of phone market share when the iPhone launched, but it captured 51% of all smartphone profit by 2012. It is one of the fastest market reversals in business history, and Jobs knew it would happen before he touched the stage. In 2010, Jobs unveiled the iPad, and critics called it a giant iPhone. Apple sold 3 million in 80 days. Jobs said the post-PC era had begun. He was not wrong. Then in October 2011, Steve Jobs died of pancreatic cancer at 56. The world mourned like it had lost a head of state. Flowers piled up outside Apple stores in 47 countries. Tim Cook was now in charge of the most scrutinized company on Earth. Tim Cook had never been the visionary. He was operations, logistics, efficiency. Critics called him a caretaker, not a creator. That started Steve create. But Cook launched Apple Pay, the Apple Watch, and AirPods. He expanded Apple into services, subscriptions, and health tech. By 2018, Apple became the first American company to hit a $1 trillion market cap. Cook had done something no one expected. He made Apple bigger than Jobs had ever dreamed. By January 2022, Apple crossed $3 trillion. For context, that is larger than the entire GDP of the United Kingdom. Apple now sells over 220 20 million iPhones every single year. Its services division alone generates more annual revenue than Nike, McDonald's, and Spotify combined. A company born with $2,300 in a Cupertino garage now employs 164,000 people and shapes how half the planet communicates every single day. From a hand-soldered circuit board to the most valuable company ever built. 2 college dropouts, 1 catastrophic firing, a near bankruptcy, and a product launch that rewired the modern world. Apple's story is not about technology. It is about obsession, failure, and the absolute refusal to stop. If this made you see Apple differently, subscribe, because next we're covering the company that came closest to ending Apple forever. Next video, the company that nearly killed Apple and how it failed. Subscribe so you don't miss